Welcome to Chik Chat, the podcast where the girl with many titles talks about life, the good and the bad, and everything around it. We're going to sit, chat, share life stories and experiences, from business to relationship. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chik Chat podcast. Today I am joined by Benjamin, who is actually a CFM client, but again is someone that I think that you guys are going to be really excited to hear about, but also because I'm noticing as well in the background is a picture that I want to specifically talk about in terms of property and life and what's going on. So I'll let you introduce yourself first and then we'll jump straight in.
Oh, thank you. My name is Benjamin Chiuriri, full name. I am a property investor based in Southampton. By trade, if you like, I'm a pharmacist. So I'm actually moving from pharmacy into property. And I've done that sort of transition in the last 3 years and a bit, I would say. It's been challenging. It's been exciting. Lots of feelings in between. But yeah, that's where I am. And thanks for inviting me, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. So for anyone that's new here, we normally start with your, if you've got a challenge of the week or a tip of the week. And then in the middle, we'll check in and see how you're actually doing. And then at the end, we'll end with a win of the week because we want to end on a high. Like no matter what's going on in life, how negative the world is, there's always something positive to think about. So yeah, we'll start with maybe a slightly negative start. But do you have a challenge of the week at the moment or a tip?
Yes. So actually, I don't know if we'll call it the challenge of the week. It's a big challenge of mine.
Yeah.
I've got a current project where I am, actually for the last 3-4 months, I've been converting a 4-bed house into 2 flats, both 3 bedrooms.
Nice.
So that's my kind of big project, if you like. So everything has been going fine. Builders have done a great job. And then because we're splitting the property, we were splitting the services. So electricity has been done, fine. Gas has been done, fine. But I'm stuck with the water company. They have been dragging their feet, which means I can't then plan ahead in terms of, because the flats are finished. So I can't plan ahead in terms of booking guests, in terms of doing my own stuff, because everything hinges on that bit. And actually, I think the bigger challenge is just trying to get them to do anything, because you've got so many departments, they monopolize the whole thing, and you can only deal with them. So they literally can do whatever they want with you. So it's been so frustrating. I'm normally very patient, but this has tested my patience, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you know what? That's an interesting challenge as well, because I'd say my challenge at the moment, and funnily enough, before we started recording, we're talking about like balancing life and doing a bit of everything. But I found 2 properties in Huddersfield when I was there last week on the same street. One's for auction, one's not, but the numbers are the same. So this is one of those things where I'm going, if I can do it and I can do one, then potentially whether one works out or not, I can either do one or both. But my challenge has been, because I think I'm so used to working with a digital team. The house is across the street from my brother. So I'm used to a way of working with a team where it's like, okay, this person gets delegated this thing. We all know kind of what we're doing and what we're in charge of. And I'm hoping to work on the project with my brother. I need to sort out finance, whatever else. But I think the challenge is at the moment, getting him into that mindset of, like, you're in a full-time job, but if you manage your time properly and you think ahead, there's a lot you can do in a day. And there's a lot that if you look back in 6 months, like you're saying, it's taken you 4 months to do this property. I'm sure you didn't start off, and it wasn't at the beginning when you started in property, it wasn't 4 months, it would have been a bit longer. But I think I've already been in that mindset of, I know how our clients work, how the clients in property work, but if he doesn't. So I'm trying to push him, but not push him too much. But also, I've got to keep going with the business. I've got to keep going with my own content. So I guess my challenge is being patient with myself and with everyone, but also knowing that if I've got high expectations, I need to be a good leader, not just someone that goes, right, this wasn't done. Why wasn't this done? What's going on? And that's kind of where I am right now.
Oh, well, I know obviously it is a challenge. But actually I should say well done, because I think just making that step is a big. I know you're gonna touch on you start with the negatives, you're gonna start on the positives. I mean, that's a big thing, because it was for me just actually thinking, right, I'm gonna go and view this property. You find it, and then trying to bring everyone else into it. It's huge. I think sometimes people don't really understand. It's huge. It
Yeah.
is huge. Yeah.
Do you know what? I'll come
Well
back to
done.
this in a second because I'd like to get people to know. I know you touched on the fact that you're a pharmacist, but you've gotten into property. So, what made you one go into pharmacy and then decide that property was going to be your thing? Because I think I'm going to try not because obviously we've had a lot of conversations, so I don't want to assume that people know things that like we obviously think is like, oh, this has been talked about ages ago.
So I graduated as a pharmacist in 2002. And I actually then started my own pharmacy from scratch in 2009. It was because the government changed or relaxed the entry regulations. So you could start your own pharmacy if you met the criteria. So, I mean, I've always wanted to be in business, but I grew up in the era where, parents would tell you you've got to be a doctor, a lawyer, the story. So pharmacy has been good to me because it then actually allowed me to get into business. But then running that business, all I had to do was basically to find a good location, which we did. We're also lucky in the sense that we managed to scale very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But then what that meant was I didn't have time for anything else. So I didn't have time for self-development. I didn't have time for self-care. I didn't have time to do anything else. And I am a big believer in, if you want to achieve anything, you've got to look after yourself first.
Yeah.
And that's physically, mentally.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have time to go to the gym, and I've always exercised all my life. So I thought I need to step out of this and look to something else. So during COVID, that's the time when I kind of had time to sit down, think, consider all of my options, and then I started my own property business, which is where I am sort of shifting towards. I still do a bit of pharmacy because I still own a pharmacy with a business partner. But yeah, I'm more into property than I am into pharmacy.
That's amazing. So what was it that made you want to get into property in the first place? Because I suppose I'd be like you. I didn't grow up. I was told doctor, lawyer, engineer, so on. That did not work out for me at all. And if anything, my brother's an engineer and he's never worked a day as an engineer. So I wouldn't have seen property until I worked with you guys, basically. I didn't see property as an option. So where did that come in for you?
So I mean, I've always been interested in business, like I said, but then so in business, you look at the successful business people, and you think, okay, let me dig into what you've been doing. And I found that most of the successful people in business, they started, or rather, they had some kind of property portfolio, in them, and then that then made me realize that there must be something in property. Actually, I did share with you, I think, in the last maybe few weeks, where my journey started in 2017 when I lost money because I hadn't invested in the knowledge and the skills of investing in property, which I then had to do in about 2020. So that was the reason why I thought, yeah, property is for me. and actually to answer the very question, why property, it's because of the freedom I think it gave me, or I thought at the time it would give me. And it's ringing true today, because yes, it's stressful like everything else, but once you understand what you need to be doing, and things are going sort of according to plan, then it gives you a lot of I would say freedom. At the moment, not financial freedom, but freedom to do anything else I want outside of work.
Yeah, that's amazing. And actually, so this behind you, if I'm correct, is one of your properties that you've just finished.
Yes, so this is the one. I'm actually just waiting for the water company to come and reconnect the water so that guests can come in. And as you can see behind, lovely property. Really proud of it. The numbers are good. Everything is good. It's just the waiting game. That's what's stressing me.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I think you've touched on quite a few things in terms of like why get into property, what that could look like once it's done. Like that looks absolutely amazing. The color schemes. Like obviously I've seen the journey that you've been on, so I suppose, and obviously we'll link your social so that people can have a look at that. But I think everything from kind of one of our first conversations of what does the bigger picture look like, from personal branding to what you do for the business branding to how you make all of this work. You'd always said that knowledge was the most important thing, but knowledge in those different areas. So you came to us because you needed knowledge for your personal branding. You talked about knowledge getting into property. And I remember one of the first pictures you sent was you were at a PIN meeting, and I'd looked at it online, and it was online here for ages, and then they've started doing them in person. So I was like, do you know what? I think I'm going to get more of it if I'm actually in person. Went in person, and that was around the 2nd of October, so just before my birthday, or the week of my birthday. Signed a new client in property. That's a woman in Belfast. Absolutely amazing. Got myself a new mentor, but I think, like you said, I was given different options in terms of even what financing would look like, because so far I've been relying on the people that I thought would be able to give me money. But obviously the world changes very quickly, business changes, life changes. And I don't just want to rely on certain people, because I personally felt like, okay, if I'm waiting on these people, I can't be chasing them saying, okay, I need that money now, like what's going on? But just going to that PIN meeting, for me, it allowed me to see some of the different options, look at the market here. The Belfast market is incredible. And there was actually this new client I'm talking about signing, she's bought a commercial, it's commercial at the bottom and it's flats at the top. And once she's got this done, that alone would be enough to retire on. It's an amazing one. And I'd actually seen this months ago, because I do a bit of deal sourcing here. And I'd seen it months ago and sent it on, and the client had said, it's not really for me. Like, I think people aren't always too confident if they've not lived in Belfast. Whereas when you live here, I know my goldmine area, I know where specific people in property would be able to get good property depending on what they're looking for. And then that knock-on effect allowed me to look outside the window when I was at my brother's and go, oh, there's a house for sale. And I thought, let me just check the numbers, see if they add up. And then found two, sent the numbers across, and it makes sense. Like, do I still know, am I going to get the money? Is it going to work out? I don't know that. But I think, like you said, making that step helps, but also surrounding yourself with people that, to me, I look at your pictures, I look at your journey, and that's inspirational, because, like you said, you're not just focusing on property itself. You have a business, and a lot of the people we work with within CFM and I work with are multi-passionate. So it's not just that property's your thing. It's not just that you're just a musician, but there's this synergy that comes in where you look and you go, oh my God, if you can do that, why can't I do that?
Yeah. I mean, you've touched on so many things there, because it's the ability. So first of all, as the saying goes, your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
Which is something I just didn't realize when I was in pharmacy, because I was so into, I was blinkered. I just looked into this really small world. Nothing wrong with that, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
But when I stepped out, you start to go to these PIN meetings, property networking meetings. You start to just mingle with there's so many
Right.
clever people out there.
Yeah.
There's so many people with just, so many things to offer, and people genuinely want to help. And I think sometimes some people, they don't even say anything, but when you connect with them, you
Mm.
look what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are so inspirational.
Yeah.
And you can learn all these little nuggets, which you can bring into your own situation. So, for
Exactly.
example, in my own situation, I could transfer some of the skills from pharmacy into property.
Yeah.
So, acquisition, just running a business,
Yeah.
really. The one thing that in pharmacy, because your biggest customer is the government, the one
Yeah.
thing I didn't know was marketing, because why would you want to market to the government?
Yeah.
This is the reason why obviously I came to you guys and say, oh yeah, I like what you're doing. I think I was connected to one of your clients at the time,
Yeah.
and then I could see that he was doing well on the socials.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, how is he doing property, socials, and all this? Little did I know he was getting help from you guys. So I thought, yeah, I can maybe, copy and paste.
Yeah.
So that's why I got in touch. But yeah, so you get a set of skills, you can transfer them into property. And then where you've got gaps, there's always a hand out
Yeah.
there. But the biggest thing is just networking with the right people. It's massive.
Yeah, that's so true. But I think as well as network, I think you like you've said, you've touched on some great points. Like your network is your net worth. Wait, before we started this, you were asking me, and actually this will lead us on into like how we're actually feeling. And I'll kind of mix this. So I'd say mentally, like I'm in a good place. I've just been a bit overwhelmed. But you were asking me like about content, the content I've been creating. Obviously, this whole last week. By the time I think this airs, this will be maybe in a couple of weeks. But I'll have been away for the last week. I worked in Huddersfield, Sheffield, Barcelona, Dublin. That was a week away where I was working but also enjoying life. But in that, I've recorded vlogs, I've recorded content, I was posting on stories. The team, I'm really proud because now I've been able to let go a bit with the agency. The team are in a good place where I can start to build the systems. I can say, okay, go. Like you've got your clients. I've sat and I've watched you do everything. Like I've taught you as much as I can, but I need to trust that I've done what I need to do, or I'm going to be able to fill in the gaps if I notice something's not done. So on my end, I look at it. I suppose I looked at it from the opposite end of view, where I was looking at clients like the one that you mentioned, going, you have people literally offering you hundreds of thousands of pounds to like 1 million, and they're coming directly to you, to your inbox. I am good on socials. I'm good at creating content. And that's why I was saying, in my mind, I think where I am mentally is in a place where I'm really excited at what the future can hold. Because, like you said, when you learn the different things and you see how that can suit you in life, I'm starting to realize that I enjoy content. I'm good at that. But in how I split, because I've always been such a people pleaser, like I never want clients to feel like they're being left on their own. But they work with people in the agency for a reason. I'm there to support for a reason. So I've been able to look at what I offer my services at. If I'm also working within the business and working with these clients as a VIP, because the skills that I now have, I'm starting to appreciate that that's now at another level. But then we've got the team that will have, like with everyone, it's really funny because everyone that works with the client at the moment, there's a synergy between them and the client where it's like everyone was made for each other. You want to learn from each other, you push each other, you teach each other, but there's also the opposite end of the content you're seeing, the analytics reports. Like you're going to get your analytics report at the end of this week, but just having a quick scan at like how you're doing, where those ideas are coming from, where your ideas come into that, and what that then looks like on socials. I find that so fascinating that it's pushed me to think more outside the box, but also think, okay, for the time I'm going to give to something else, what's the return I'm going to get, and how am I going to do this in a way where I don't resent people, I don't resent myself, I don't resent life? Because if I'm taking it on, I need boundaries, but also I'm starting to realize I enjoy loads of things and I want to keep doing loads of things. So yeah, I suppose, how have you found managing everything, and how are you like doing in general, like just mentally, and how do you manage it all?
So I'm going to use some of the words you've used. So excited, especially because I have just finished this project rather, even though I'm still frustrated the water company hasn't done what they need to do. Don't start me on them, but I'm so excited. But on the other hand, I would say overwhelmed because because I'm going to be using these 2 flats as Airbnb, and because my whole idea was first to understand the nuts and bolts of how the whole thing operates, what apps to use, how you communicate with people, how you basically run the whole thing before I then hand it over to, like a management company or something else. So what that meant was I had to do all the purchasing of the, say the, I don't know, the furniture, for example, right down to the cushion. You can see on the settee behind me, so that was all me. And then at the same time, managing the builders because, there are some snagging we need to do. And then making sure that I've got like a landing page on the website where people are going to be booking, so there's a lot that I'm doing in the background. Which, to be fair, a lot of people don't always see in property because, on Instagram or wherever, you only see the good bits. So this is some of the things I would say I'm overwhelmed with. And like I mentioned, also every October in pharmacy, I have to, it's my fault because I should have planned things better. I need to write up or record to show the Pharmaceutical Council that my knowledge, skills, they're all up to date. Exactly. So again, so I have to do that. But I need to be a bit more, I think plan better next time. So that's all been happening in one go. And not to mention this week, actually, I will use another word, which is anxious, because this week I am expecting my valuation back from the bank.
Oh, amazing.
For the refinance. And because of all the reports that have been happening in the in the economy, prices are going to go down and this, that, and the other. So you start to think, oh, what is it going to be? Are they going to downvalue it? Am I going to be able to recycle most of my money? So it's inevitable. I'm a bit anxious about that. So that's how I'm feeling. But at the same time, this week as well, I've been feeling guilty because this week has been, you mentioned how do I manage with kids? So my kids are on half term for 2 weeks. So sometimes I want to take time to spend with them, quality time. I do spend quality time with them. We go to the park, we play football and that sort of thing. But I wish I could do more. So you kind of just feel guilty. They're bigger now, so 11 and 14. Actually, my son's birthday was on Saturday because 10, 14 on Saturday.
Happy birthday to him.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so they are bigger, they've got their own stuff, but you still want to spend quality time with them. So you kind of feel guilty. So that's where I am. So yeah, overwhelmed, bit anxious, guilty, but excited.
Yeah, do you know what? I love that. And I think that's a very honest place to be because, like you said, you had the pharmaceutical business first. So you've transferred some of the skills of business. And I think that's where it's funny because we work the same. And I very much believe learn everything you are going to do first to know how long it takes you, how much it's going to cost you, so on, and then pass it on to someone. But I think that's where when I was saying about feeling overwhelmed, if you're doing all of that right now, it's hard to see like the other side of it where you will be able to take time. Like in the past, I would not have been able to take that week off the way that I did. Like this was the first call I think you and Jonah had that I wasn't on because I was like, I don't actually need to be on this. Like I like being
and she handled it very well, by the way. It was really good.
Amazing.
It was like you were there.
Yeah, I love that. But I think that's where even for me, I've had to sit down and go, I need to let go because Jonah has been with me from the beginning. So if anyone knows what she's doing, it would be Jonah. But it's always been that thing of I want to make sure that clients are happy, but also I enjoy our conversation. So I don't want to completely remove that. But there comes a time I also have to go. But I planned to be away. So I didn't know if I would have internet or how that would be working. So I needed to remove myself from that. But a few weeks before that, I would have not been able to take the whole week without the team needing me so much. And that whole thing of guilt, I was with my niece last week, and there was a point where I planned to do work later in the day, and then she needed someone just to play with her for a little bit. And I was sat there thinking, okay, clients need me, my niece needs me, the team needs me. Like I'm seeing messages come through. How do I prioritize right now, and how do I do this? And because my parents don't understand what I do in business and the way that business works in general, I'm also having to juggle their expectations and what's happening. So I think that there's definitely that. It's difficult until one day it's not. But I think as an entrepreneur, you forget that you've done so much over so many years that have got you to this point. And yes, you might be anxious and you might be stressed, but look what's behind you. Like once you get that letter to say that everything's okay, even if the evaluation's not great for now, in the future things will change. Like it could always be done. Like there are solutions, and I think that's where it's really impressive to see that you have still managed to juggle family time and so on, but you do want to still be a better dad. You want to be a better business person.
Yeah, no, you know, so one thing, so your words actually resonate with, I was speaking to the mortgage broker this morning, because we're just updating each other on the valuation bit.
Yeah.
And we kind of went off tangent, but she touched on the exact points you touched on. And it was, yes, the valuation might not be great, for example, but you have to look at the positives, because what she's actually, how old is she now? She said she's in her sort of 60s now. And she touches on sort of the wins of the day, wins of the week,
Yeah.
all these little wins. And she was saying actually this morning her win was she goes somewhere in the morning and then comes back home and there's always traffic, but this morning there wasn't any traffic.
Yeah.
So that was a big win for her.
Yeah.
And it made me realize sometimes I think we focus on the big things. So just having these moments to celebrate these little wins.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I never really understood what little wins were, but now I do, So all these little bits, they do add up. And I think overall you just become someone who appreciates value, you appreciate life, you appreciate people around you, everything around you. And I think, it gives you that positive vibe and a positive outlook, really.
Yeah, it does. And it's such a mindset shift as well. And actually, do you know what? Since we're talking about this, we'll do our wins of the week. But I've noticed that it's a mindset shift because, like you've said, our brains don't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So if we're focusing on negatives, all we see are negatives. If we get ourselves to focus on even one positive, we start to see some of the good bits of the day. And I'd say, oh, what's my win of the last week? I think I've touched on a few, but I think the biggest win is the joint one of being able to let go, but to be able to be the CEO of CFM whilst being a content creator. Like I've got like the next month and a bit's worth of content sorted, all done last week, all organized, everything done. But in that, I've also been able to look through all of the clients, and we've gone through like the meetings that have been had in the last couple of weeks with clients and gone, okay, where can we level up? How can I use the things that I'm learning right now to get each client to the next stage of where they want to be, whether they know that they're ready or not. And I think that's such a big win because I'm starting to notice that whilst I can take a step back, that time to breathe and just think gets me creative, but also gets me in a way that I can see where our clients are starting to do really, really well and where they're getting the wins as well. So it feels like it's like a two birds with one stone type of like thing, and I'm winning on both sides. So that's exciting for me.
And it's such a big win. I mean, I can only sort of talk about my own experience because I never actually, I had a business partner. We never managed to do what you did. So if I was on holiday, he had to be there.
Yeah.
And the other way around.
Yeah.
And we then Is it Michael Gerber in his book, The E-Myth, where you then become the mechanic of the business
Yeah.
rather than, so you're working in the business rather than on the business. So
Yeah.
that's just such a big, big, big win.
Yeah.
So I wish, of course, we can always turn back the hands of time if we could, but I wish maybe I had sort of stepped away from that business earlier,
Yeah.
because I don't know, it becomes emotional. You become attached,
Yeah.
it's your baby, it's everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard to let go. So I didn't have a mentor at the time as well. So I didn't have someone to say, look, you need to get out of here.
Yeah.
They will manage, or you need to set up systems to make sure everybody manages.
Yeah.
So that's just such a big win. So for me, my win is actually a lot different from yours, because I managed to speak to my cousin
Yeah.
in Zimbabwe over the phone. So I hadn't spoken to my cousin for a while, actually.
Yeah.
So we have got a very, very good connection. He is one of these people who would, in the whole family, he would do anything for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think one of the things I've been looking at over the last few weeks and months, really, is actually, yes, in property you can make money. You can do lots of stuff, but the thing that actually matters is building those meaningful relationships with the people you love,
Yeah.
people around you. So yes, of course, money is good. It's a tool, by the way, but it's really building those relationships with the people who mean, who are everything to you. So that was my win. So we had this conversation, and he was basically just telling me about how he's facing his own challenges. He's building he bought a plot, so he's building a house.
Yeah.
So obviously we had lots to talk about on
Yeah.
how he's getting on, because I had my own project.
Yeah.
But essentially I think it was just having that connection, sort of a deeper sort of connection, which I think before I would have had that conversation just like a conversation, but I think now it means more, because maybe I'm aware, I'm thinking about it, because I want to make more meaningful relationships with people around me that I love.
Do you know what? I love that so much. I can resonate with that because I think when you said about you didn't know how to kind of celebrate the little things before, I would be the same as you. And I think that's when you find that I know they say, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. It does to a certain extent because, like you said, it's a mechanism, it's a tool. But there comes a point where no matter what money you have, it doesn't change anything. And when you are finding those connections, and my thing last week was community. The time I spent with the people I spent are people that I love the most in the world. So it was fulfilling in that kind of way. And I think, like you're saying, when you look at life in that sense, that's another way of appreciating other little things and being able to accept that even when you are feeling overwhelmed and anxious and whatever else, there's still a positive to that because you're not just focused on that one element of life. There are other things that you're looking at. I love that outlook.
Yeah, it's and actually it was interesting because he actually, I mean, my dad passed away, but he reminded me so much of my dad, because he was like, you remember what my dad used to do. He was one of these people. We had so many people we used to live with, because he had this whole big idea of I remember we had one cousin. He never actually told us what had happened until we were bigger, because his parents both passed away. So he was an orphan, so he just took him, and he just became part of our family. Never told. So he was this kind of person. And so my cousin was reminding me about all these things, So I think it sort of brought memories of, yes, you can make all this money in property or whatever business you're doing, but actually it's important to then give back as well. I think it's I mean, I'm a believer in karma, actually. It's not always to give to get, but really just to give unconditionally. Because that's what it's all about, really, life.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm seeing here, I'm being told that there's a countdown. So I'm gonna wrap that up, and definitely this is gonna need a part two, because I think that we've touched on kind of the outskirts of what you do and why, but I'd like to delve deeper into kind of your mindset and the poverty journey as well, and how you then transition. So massive thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed this chat.
Thank you. You know what, Chikumo, thank you so much for inviting me. And by the way, this is my first ever
I love that.
podcast. Well, this is my first ever time featuring on a podcast. I've listened to many podcasts. So this is going to be my number one podcast.